Hey everybody, it's Ernie. And so I'm here to talk about more tips about hassle-free eviction and how we get there. And so if you've seen the 7-part video series, you've seen a kind of broad overview of what hassle-free eviction is all about. And so what I'm going to give you over time, now that you're part of our Facebook group, is some deeper, meatier chunks for you to review. So let's get started. Today we're going to talk about certain disclosures that you should have in your lease. And very specifically, we're going to talk about what to do about informing your tenants about repairs to the premises. So your lease should have a provision that specifically identifies the rights of the tenant and your rights as a landlord, but specifically your obligations as a landlord when it comes to repair. And so you're not required to make cosmetic repairs, right? And so if they say, well, we don't like this shade of blue, we'd like something a little darker, this is not something you are required to do generally, unless somehow it's part of your lease that you will do something like that. By default, there's no obligation to do that. But there are certain repairs that the law will require you to handle. Specifically, the law requires that you handle something that it refers to as a defect on the premises that affects the health or the safety of an ordinary tenant. And so if somebody's safety or their health is particularly at risk, you have to do something about it. And the courts are not shy about forcing landlords to make good on their obligation to carry out their responsibility to their tenants. And so your lease is one way where you can very specifically and very carefully outline what you're willing to do and what you're able to do and how they should get in contact with you, your tenants that is, when a repair is needed. And so this is helpful because sometimes tenants sit on certain repairs. For example, if there's a leak coming from the ceiling, and it's not that big a deal, it's just kind of making a little mark here and there, but your lease requires that you be notified at the instant there is some kind of noticeable defect. Well, when that leak grows to a huge hole in the ceiling, the tenant cannot be said to be without fault. These things don't happen, generally speaking, in one night. And so if the tenant is responsible for some of these repairs, they might end up being on the hook for some of the cost. And so if your lease properly identifies these things, you're safer. If you have a good phone number, a good email address, even an after hours number is good to have to protect you as the landlord. And so we're not going to get into parsing out what kind of repair might affect the health and safety of an ordinary tenant and what definitely wouldn't. That would take forever. But it is important to recognize that there are such things that require immediate attention. And the fact that you just can't get around to it isn't a good enough excuse for most judges. I hope this helps. Have a good one. Can't wait to see you again.